Hello, Clearly Essential team, and thanks for joining us for our monthly webinar. This is Crystal Garvin, and Tracey Smith is with us as our guest trainer tonight. I'm really excited to have her speak. And we are wrapping up 2015 at the time of this recording, but I realize a lot of people might be watching it at any time in the future. So even if it's not the end or start of a year and you just need to reevaluate, this will be a great training to revisit or to come to anytime if you're new on our team. So it's all about goal setting, and I know that Tracey does a great job of setting goals in her own life. She has trained her team really well on goal setting. She knows the importance of it. So I asked her to come and teach us about goal setting, and I do want to encourage you just to print out, there's in the files on our Facebook group, you'll see a couple of documents. I'm going to try to share, if I can, what they look like. But there's goals and SMART goals, I think are the names of them. Here we go. Goals worksheet is the first one. So this would be great to follow along with different areas where you're going to want to set goals, and Tracey will talk about that. And then SMART goal setting. So for each of your goals, setting an action plan. It's going to be super helpful for you to print those out, keep them in a binder or somewhere handy that you can refer to them often throughout the time period you've set for your goals. And I wanted to show those to you and encourage you to maybe even pause the training and go and find those and print them out so that you can really pay attention and also know how to use those to maximize your goal setting. So I know we can hear a lot of trainings on goal setting and walk away and not do anything. And that's not what I want to see us do. I really want to see us apply these and get results from this training. So thank you, Tracey, for being here. You want to say anything to introduce yourself and how you got doTERRA?
Yeah, so I've been in doTERRA for just over 2 years. And Crystal introduced me to the organization, and the quality of the oils just blew me away. And so from there, it was a given. This was going to be something I was going to be a part of. And Crystal has asked me to speak tonight on goal setting. And this is something that I have done and learned about a lot for about the past 10 years. I'm a chiropractor by trade. And in chiropractic, we're really big on goal setting. It is a huge part of our kind of identity to make sure that we're setting goals on a regular basis. And there is right and wrong ways to set goals, believe it or not. But there's some statistics you'll hear random, if you've ever heard like the 80-20 rule, that definitely applies to statistics as well, that less than 20% of people set goals, and even less than that actually write down goals. And so it's great to set goals, but it's even more important to write them down. So when we actually set goals, it is, Crystal, do I tab through these or do you?
I will. There we go. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off my webcam so it's a little bigger for everybody. If you want to do the same, I just like to introduce ourselves, show our faces, and then we can turn off our webcams and you can go ahead and get right into the meat of your training. And just let me know. I may be able to tell, but let me know when you want me to change slides.
Okay, let's go on to the first slide. The next one. So that's a little bit about kind of why Crystal asked me to actually specifically speak on goals. But let's talk for a second about what actually a goal is. This is pretty basic, but I think it's important to kind of set this as our target, what we're looking at. So a goal is an outcome that one strives to achieve by proper planning. It's something one puts conscious effort into taking regular steps to achieve. The systematic process or formula makes the impractical practical, the unreachable reachable, and the improbable probable. With clearly defined goals, your chances for success increase dramatically. So that's a really big, important thing to be aware of as we start off talking tonight. And then as you start actually setting goals, knowing that when you start to set goals, it's the difference between having a blindfold on and trying to hit a target and actually being able to see the target and aiming for it and being able to hit it. There's a huge difference. So next slide, please. So it's really important that we all know that a dream is just a dream until you write it down, and then it's a goal. So it's important to dream. That's a really important thing. But even more important than that is writing down your dreams and getting them concrete on paper so you can focus on them and you can actually start to try and achieve those dreams. Next slide, please. So this is really just a good way to kind of think about goal setting. Would you go on a trip without first looking at a map? And that is what goal setting is all about. If you have a dream that you want to achieve X, Y, or Z, setting goals is making a map and planning out the route to get there. Next step. Next slide, please. So why is it important to set goals? Setting goals helps us to get clarity and focus about what it is you wish to accomplish. When you write out your goals, you're increasing the odds that those goals will actually be accomplished. So writing them out allows you to focus on them and allows you to come back and remember what your goals are instead of just having to get everything by memory. Goals allow you to put conscious effort into taking regular baby steps to achieve an outcome, and reviewing your goals can fill you with excitement and motivation. So when you actually have your goals written down and you regularly look at them, you're reminded of what you're trying to achieve, and that helps you to stay motivated and on task. Okay, next slide, please. When do you set goals? Goals should be set at a minimum one time a year. So I make it a point in my practice and in my personal life to set goals once a year. I usually do it in beginning December, and I set them for the following year. They should be read every day for 21 days straight. If you've ever heard that before, that 21 days, the reason why that's so important is they say it takes 21 days of a repetitive task every single day in order to form a habit. So if you're doing a reading of your goals 21 days straight, it becomes a habit. And then they should be revised every week. So oftentimes what will happen is someone will write a goal, they'll either put it away and not look at it, or they'll look at it, but they won't think to update or revise that goal. So for instance, if I had a goal, let's say that I wanted to be silver by February, okay? So just a random goal. And I had that goal, and then I hit silver in January, I would want to update that goal. If you had a volume goal, say that I wanted to get 100,000 in volume by the 15th of January. Say by the 1st of January, I don't know, that's a stupid one. Say by the 5th of January, I was at 100,000 volume. I would want to update that. So making sure that you're revising and you're updating your goals on a weekly basis. That way, if you're exceeding a goal, you can revise it. Or if you don't think you're going to hit a goal, we're going to talk about this in a minute, you want goals to be attainable. So if I'm coming up on the 15th of January and my volume's at like 50,000, I might want to revise and say, you know what? It doesn't look like I'm going to hit that 100,000 goal. Let's bring it back. I think that in the next week, I could really stretch it and maybe I could hit 65,000 in volume. So I'm going to revise my goal to 65,000 in volume. So next slide, please. Steps to setting a goal. First thing you need to do is identify your goal. So we're going to get into categories of goals in a minute, and you guys have got the 2 worksheets printed off. You're going to print one of the worksheets that has all the different categories with the 3 goals underneath each category, and you're going to print as many as you want of the other one, the SMART goal setting worksheet. And that one is where you're going to, first of all, identify your goal. The next thing you're going to do on that worksheet is put your goal through the test by asking questions. Is my goal bold enough? Do I believe I can achieve this goal? If I don't, if I say, oh man, in the year 2016, I want to lose 40 pounds, but I'm going in the back of my head, yeah, right. Well, that isn't something that I honestly believe I can achieve. What is the reason why I don't think I can achieve it? What's the roadblock? Because you have to address what the roadblock is to a goal if you're ever going to break through it. Does this goal conflict with any other goals I have? So for instance, if I wanted to be, I don't know, silver by February, and then I wanted to be premier by March. That's really stupid. It's obvious, but it's an example. You don't want them to conflict each other. So that's important. And then how would I feel a year, 5 years, or 10 years from now if I never achieve this goal? So it's important that when you're looking at a goal, would I even care if I didn't achieve it? If you don't care if you achieve a goal or not, if it's not something that would give you heartache to think you hadn't achieved it, then maybe that's not something that's necessarily your personal goal. Maybe you're trying to achieve it for someone else and not for yourself. It's really important when you're trying to achieve goals. It's for you. It's personal for you. So how would you feel if you didn't achieve that goal? Then you're going to set a maturity date. So a maturity date is basically the date you want to achieve that goal by. So you want to add a tangible number to it. And you can see that also on that worksheet. And then identify the obstacles you must overcome in order to achieve your goal. And on that worksheet, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's the bottom box. Basically, your action steps, I think is what it's called, is what you're going to do at the bottom. So what obstacles do you need to overcome? What action steps do you need to take in order to achieve that goal? Next slide, please. The next thing you need to do is identify the people, groups, and organizations you need to work with in order to achieve your goals. So this is going to be really dependent on what your goals are, whether if they're a financial goal, you're going to need to meet with a financial planner. Maybe if they're a career goal, like with doTERRA, you're going to need to start meeting with your uplines, your mentors. Maybe if they're a family goal, you need to start having regular sit-down times with your significant other. So you need to figure out who you need to work with in order to achieve your goals. And most goals, you need to work with people. Goals are really very much a group effort. Identifying the skills and knowledge needed to help achieve your goal. Ask yourself if you're willing to pay the price in order to enjoy the benefits. So one thing that's important to realize is that oftentimes you have to sacrifice in the short term in order to achieve your goals in the long term. So one example of that is I often hear people talk about how they have to stay up late or wake up early in order to get their doTERRA stuff completed. I don't really have time during the middle of the day, or I'm at work, or I'm taking care of my kids, or whatever it is. But what's important to realize is that if we're sacrificing in the short term, if we're maybe getting a little less sleep, or maybe rather than, maybe one time when your husband says, hey, let's all go to the park and take all the kids, and you say, you know what, actually it'd be really helpful if I could stay home during that hour and get some work done. Yes, it's a sacrifice, but knowing that sacrificing in the short term can be a really huge gain in the long term and very beneficial, that's important to realize that. And then list the benefits of achieving and the reasons why you're committed to your goal, and visualize yourself having already achieved that goal. So what pain will you experience in your life if you did not achieve that goal? That's a really important question to ask ourselves. What is it going to feel like if you don't ever achieve that goal? And if that's something that it pulls on your heart to think you wouldn't achieve something, then that shows you that's a really good goal. It's you. You're doing it for you. And that's really important when it comes to goal setting. Next slide, please. So one of the things the sheets of paper says, doing a SMART goal, or making a SMART goal worksheet. And this is what a SMART goal is. So it's important, first of all, that your goal is specific. So not, I'm going to get a new car, but what kind of car, what make of car, what model of car, what year of car, what color of car, what are the tires going to look like? What features are going to be on the inside? Is it going to be leather? Is it going to be cloth? Is there going to be a stereo system? Is there going to be a backup camera? Get specific with your goals. Are your goals measurable? So I'm going to be a better person. That's not a measurable goal. How do you know? How do you know that you're going to be a better person? How do you know if you've achieved that goal? How do you know if you haven't achieved that goal? It's way ambiguous. You can't do that. You got to have a measurable goal. Attainable. So I'm going to make $1 million this month. Probably not attainable. So an attainable goal is something that you realistically can achieve. Relevant. Is the goal relevant to you? So, it maybe seems like a really awesome idea for me to, start this nonprofit in Uganda, but maybe that's not something that's actually relevant to me. I love the idea of it, but it's not actually relevant to me in my life. Maybe that means that you're not setting a goal for yourself, you're setting it for someone else. So make sure the goal is relevant and then time bound. You always want to make sure that's that maturity date that we talked about. You have a time frame that you're working within the confines of. And we're actually really already pretty privy to a time-bound goal because every month we have a time-bound goal with doTERRA. At the end of the month, on the first day of the next month, our clock resets, our numbers reset, our rank resets, and we start over from day one. So every time you're setting a goal in order to achieve a new rank, a new volume, you understand the confounds of a time-bound goal. So that's what it means to be time-bound. All of those things, if you can check yes to all of those things when you make a goal, that's considered a SMART goal. Next slide, please. So repeat the steps above for each of your goals. So let's go into the categories of goals. I think that's where we're at next. Next slide, please. So the 12 areas of goal setting. Next slide. The first one is career. So your first goal is goal categories in career. And I always encourage people to set 3 goals within each of the categories. So you're going to set 3 goals within each of the 12 categories. If you can't do 3, at least do 1 in each category, but don't get too many. Don't do 5 or 6 within each category because then you're going to start to feel overwhelmed. So a career goal would be something like desires or dreams of your chosen pursuit, your life's work, establishing levels of accomplishments, advancing your career position, developing the skills to be effective. So something like this would be, I'd like to advance to this rank. I'd like to get this volume. I'd like to make this earning. I'd like to take this particular, I'd like to complete the Edge Success training. I'd like to go to leadership. I'd like to go to the Education Summit in the spring. I'd like to go to convention next fall. So setting those goals within your career. So knowing that, that's really important. So a good example of a career goal would be, I would like to hit the rank of silver 2 times before July 1st so that I qualify as a silver for convention in 2016. So that would be a good goal. Or my goal is to go to convention in 2016 in Salt Lake City on September, I think it's like, I don't remember the date. Crystal's going to kill me. It's like the 11th or something like that. That's probably not right. Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble now.
The 14th to the 17th, I think.
14th through the 17th. See, I knew she was going to pop in here. I was about to miss that one up. The 14th through the 17th in Salt Lake City, Utah. So putting a date, putting a specificity, and making sure that it's something that's measurable. Either you do it or you don't, right? Either you are in Salt Lake City or you're not. It either happens by September or doesn't. So knowing that, being specific with it. So that would be an example of a career goal. Next slide, please. Financial goals. These can be really fun. A lot of times people get overwhelmed or anxious about the idea of financial goals because we feel like it's a burden. In our society, finances can be a really big burden, but you know what? Flip it around. Look at a financial goal as being something really fun. So goals such as getting a raise, getting out of debt, building a certain net worth by a specified time, or retiring at a pre-established time with a given net worth, saving money effectively, or travel or stuff like that. So I would like to save $2,000 a month in 2016, so that by the end of 2016, I've saved $24,000. Though that would be a really good goal. Or I would like to save X number of dollars by this date so that my husband and I can take a cruise for our 20-year anniversary, whatever it might be. So financial goal is really something that's kind of focused around the finances of your home. Next slide, please. A spiritual goal is really, this can be applicable to anybody. So a lot of times we think spiritual goals, I'm not really religious. Well, that's okay. This is a spiritual goal. So for some, like myself, I would say my spiritual goals are reading my Bible every day, tithing, being involved in Bible studies, daily prayer. But for some, that might be meditation. That might be a quiet time. A spiritual goal is that time where you get introspective with yourself. And really connect with the Creator. And so that is a really important thing, and it's an important category. This is really the category that's going to ground you. It's going to recenter you. It's going to ground you, and it's going to help you find your purpose. So spiritual goal is really important. Like I said, an example of a spiritual goal, myself, for example, it is my goal in 2016 to read, my Bible every day for an X number of minutes every day. So that would be an example of a spiritual goal. Next slide, please. A physical goal is a goal such as changing your diet, releasing excess weight, improving physical appearance by means of a new wardrobe, taking up exercising, joining a health club, anything that's physical. So, something that isn't listed here, but might be something that you look at as a physical goal is that I'd like to get off of all of my prescription medications by X date. That would be a good physical goal. Or I would like to, something that might be a little bit, for some of us, this might seem silly, but for someone, it might be like, I'd like to be able to do a cartwheel, by June 1st or whatever it is, or I'd like to be able to do the splits. That seems ridiculous to me. I could never do the splits, but maybe improving your flexibility, and that's your benchmark. So that's a really good way to think of that measurable. So if you said, I'd like to improve my flexibility, well, that's super ambiguous. But if you know that one way of improving flexibility is touching your toes, I would like to be able to touch my toes by X number of days. For 10 seconds or something like that. And I keep on saying the goals, the way you're intended to write them, I'm not really speaking them the right way. You are supposed to actually write a goal as if it's already happened. So I am able to touch my toes by June 1st for 10 seconds. So you write it as if it has already happened. I keep on saying it, I would like to. That's not how you're intended to write a goal. So when there's some psychology behind the idea of reading something in the affirmative as if it has already happened, your brain looks at it as something that you have already accomplished. So there's some psychology behind that rather than I would like to do this. Well, that's kind of it's very ambiguous. It's kind of flip-floppy or wish-washy. But if you write I have or I am able to, that is something that your brain reads as a positive, an affirmation, something that's already actually occurred. So that's kind of a side note. Next slide, please. A mental goal would be a goal such as learning a new skill, remembering names, changing mental attitudes, taking additional classes, listening to good affirming music, or reading good books. So one of my goals for 2016 is I'd like to read a book every month. It's really simple. It's not a very, I don't have to write out a 3-page, dissertation about what that goal is and means. It's really straightforward. One book every month. I used to be a reader. I've really gotten out of the habit of it. Readers are leaders, and leaders are readers both ways. And so it's been a goal of mine to get back into reading a book every month. That's my first step. If I can do more than that, awesome. I'll switch it up. I'll revisit it. But for now, my first goal is a book every month. Making sure your making sure your goals are achievable is incredibly important. So I start with simple, it's easy to win, hard to lose, and then we build from there. So that's a good example of a mental goal. Next slide, please. Family goals. These can be really fun too. Getting your family involved in your goals can really expand the relationship within your household and really help everybody to get much closer. So involving your family in your goals is really a great idea. So family goals would be goals such as changing roles in your family, improving communication with your family, educating your children, things like that. So I know that there's a lot of homeschool moms in doTERRA. One example would be, I'd like to, finish X, Y, or Z curriculum by X, Y, or Z date. I'd like for my child to test through this grade level by this date. I'd like for, maybe at this point in time, you're staying at home and your husband is going to work 50 hours a week. My husband stays at home by June 1st, 2016. My husband cuts down to 20 hours a week by June 2016. Those are some ideas. Or I no longer work on any business other than doTERRA by March 2016. So those are some good family goals. Next slide, please. Personal relationships, goals such as developing a better relationship with your significant other, acquiring new friends, or releasing old relationships. So there's a couple different things here, goals that go towards a couple different sides. Better relationships with your significant other. I'd like to, I go on X number of dates a month. Another one, if you're releasing old relationships, maybe there's a specific person in your life that you know is a toxic relationship that you have been trying to distance yourself from and just have really had a hard time doing it. Setting a goal, I know this sounds crazy to some people, especially if you don't have a toxic relationship in your life, but for those of you that do, setting a goal to distance yourself or completely cut off from that toxic relationship and filling out that SMART goal worksheet and then going through action steps of how you're going to make that happen, maybe the only way that you're actually able to achieve that. And that could be a make or break thing for year 2016, releasing a relationship that's toxic. So if you know that's you, that's something to take really seriously and really attempt. So next slide, please. Things I want to do. So this is another really fun category. So taking a cruise or a trip, climbing a mountain, writing a book, learning a new skill. So what is that thing that you have on your bucket list that you just want to do? And maybe it's something that nobody knows about. Maybe you want to write a novel. Maybe you want to write poetry and get it published. Maybe you want to climb a mountain, or you want to run a marathon. Writing those things down, attaching dates to them. Those are really great ways to make this happen. And taking a want to do thing and making it a reality you get such a sense of accomplishment from that. So writing that down is really important. Next slide, please. Things you want to have, nice, fun category as well. We sometimes get into this place of thinking that it's not okay to say that we want to have something. In some way, there's something wrong with that. But when you really put aside that poverty mentality and you take on the mentality of you're an extremely hardworking individual, you're extremely generous with your time, with your money, and you would like to be able to treat yourself to something as well. By hitting goals, you're able to have things that you want. And this, for me, for instance, like dream house, new furniture, a new car. One of the goals that I put down is I'd like new furniture for our living room. It's not something that is, it's still something that is beneficial for our home, and it's still something that's beneficial for our family, but it doesn't mean that it's not something that I want. So putting it in this category would be an example of something that you want to have. Next slide, please. Miscellaneous, this really should be at the end. I've got like 2 more categories, but basically anything that doesn't fit into any of the other categories can go in your miscellaneous category. So I always have a really hard time figuring out what to put in this category because, quite frankly, I'm such a package in the box with a nice tidy bow on the top that I often set my goals by going through each of the categories and thinking about what goal I'd like for that category. So this is so ambiguous for me. It's really hard for me to even give you a good example. But If you've got a random goal that you'd like to have met and it doesn't seem to fit anywhere else, putting it in this category works too. So next slide, please. Things I want to be. This is actually a little bit more of an ambiguous category. It is going to be a little bit harder to make this quantifiable, but describe the total concept of the kind of person you want to be. Once you've described the new you, use words and pictures to form an image. A great way to do this one would be literally to say, I'm a kind and generous and caring person. I spend time with my family. I donate to local charities. I give my time to my church. I tithe regularly. And you just write out who you are. Who is the person that you want to be? Write that out. And then literally taking some magazines, cutting some pictures out, putting those, making a collage, almost a vision board, so to speak. That's a really great way to fill this category. Next slide, please. And then feelings. So this is another one that's pretty ambiguous, but also very important. Include goals which reflect the positive attitudes and emotional changes, such as experiencing joy each day, no matter what is happening, feeling good, being excited, awake, alert, alive, enthusiastic, surrendering resentment, irritability, anger, blame, and guilt. We can surrender our negative attitudes and emotions through the use of personal inventory. Your feelings will determine your success in all your goal categories. So if you are someone who considers yourself to be more of a glass half empty person, maybe setting goals that help you to make a conscious effort to look at things more optimistically on a daily basis could be something that'd be really beneficial. So that would be a good thing for this category, the feelings category. Next slide, please. So achieving your goals, those are the 12 categories. Achieving your goals, the first thing you need to do is create an action plan, basically a to-do list that includes a list of monthly, weekly, and most importantly, daily action steps that will bring you closer to your goals. So for instance, if one of my physical goals was that I wanted to release 40 pounds, right? Basically, you want to lose 40 pounds. Release 40 pounds seems nicer, doesn't it? Then what you would need to do is get an action plan. So I exercise 30 minutes a day, 4 times a week. I run 3 miles a week. I take 10,000 steps a day. I eat 1,200 calories a day. Whatever it is, your action step. The second part of the plan of the action is the list of non-reoccurring actions, where you list the actions, the date it needs to be done on or by, and the approximate time it will take. So this would basically be, this wouldn't be a reoccurring, this would be a one-time, like this action needs to happen by this day. It's not reoccurring, it's a one-time action. So next slide, please. Achieving your goals continued. Following your action plan like you would a written plan from your coach or boss. So you've got your action plan, you've got your SMART goals worksheet. You literally follow that like your boss handed it to you and said, I want you to accomplish this. It's very important. You look at it very seriously. That's the reason we're writing it down. For some reason, at some time, you'll find yourself not as committed to reaching your goals as you were when you first wrote them down. It's been said that you must pay the price for achieving your goals, but the truth is you enjoy the benefits. But the truth is to enjoy the benefits, you must pay the price for not setting goals at all. Next slide, please. Don't let other people talk you out of your goals or tell you they're too big or not reasonable. If you believe in them, that is all that matters. Next slide. If you have a victorious spirit and the power to create the full and beautiful life your heart longs for, goals enable us to use our creative imagination to build a dream so real, so vivid that it must come true. So the point of what this is saying is that if you've ever heard, I always think this is such a cool illustration. If you've ever heard this before, they say that a bumblebee should not be able to fly based on the size of its body and the size of its wings. It shouldn't be able to fly, but it doesn't know any different. So therefore it does. So what this is saying is that if you create a goal that's so vivid, that's so true, that's so real, it will happen just because your mind doesn't see it as not being true. So reading your goals, believing your goals, making it a daily part of who you are, your mind will see that as truth, and you will start to achieve goals you never thought were even possible. So be as specific and as vivid as possible so that your mind already sees it as truth. Next slide, please. If you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. This is what we talked about, creating that roadmap. You have the option of either putting on a blindfold and aiming for that target, or taking off the blindfold and aiming for it. And the goals, setting goals, is like taking off that blindfold. You are absolutely working at a disadvantage in life if you are not setting goals, because you are trying to hit a target with a blindfold on. And I'll even take it one step farther and say, with a blindfold on and turned around. And then someone says, okay, now find the target. It's nearly impossible. So take off the blindfold, set the goals, and know where you're aiming. Next slide, please.
That's actually the last one.
That's it. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
That's the basics of goal setting. And what I would really encourage all of you to do is, if your spouse or significant other is willing to get on this journey with you, I would strongly recommend that the two of you have a date night. You both go out together. You sit down. You have this two worksheets, or a few of the worksheets printed out. You bring your pens. You go to a restaurant. I mean, don't go to Ruth Chris or something. They'll look at you crazy for having paper in front of you. But you go to a restaurant, you sit down knee to knee, and you just spend time talking and dreaming with each other, deciding what you want this next year to look like in every aspect of your life, your careers, your personal life, your family, your financial. What do you want this year to look like? And you sit there and you write them out, you write them down. And you get really super specific about what it is that you want to happen in 2016. And then the two of you hold each other accountable. You take these worksheets, you don't just stuff them in a binder and put them somewhere in a closet. You take your worksheet that has all of the 12 categories and the 3 specific goals underneath it. You take that and you put it on your fridge, and you look at it every day, and you read it every day, and you think about the goals that you want to achieve. And when you achieve them, you check them off and you put another goal in that place. And you just make it really specific and something you're very intentional about this year. And I guarantee you, if you do that, this will be the best year yet. You will look back on it and say, oh my gosh, how did it happen that 2016 was so amazing? It'll happen because you were specific and intentional about it. So I really encourage all of you to take some time. You take about 2 hours in December, and then you take a couple minutes every day to read them and rewrite them, and you'll be amazed. That is probably the best return on a time investment that you could ever make.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. This is amazing information and advice. And I'm just going to wrap up by saying I hope that you believe in yourself enough to do this. You're going to tend to experience in life what you expect. And if you expect to fail, then you probably will. If you can look at failure as just another obstacle to overcome, or even something that helps you build character and move on, really the only way to fail is to quit on your goals. So we're all going to have setbacks. We're going to have ups and downs. And, Tracey's business is a great example. Mine's a great example. But Tracey being our presenter, and, I know that she has a goal to reach diamond in 2016. I totally believe she's going to do that. She's already platinum. Maybe she had a goal to reach diamond by the end of 2015, and she's not going to throw up her hands and quit because it didn't quite happen on that time schedule. Like she said, she's going to revisit it and figure out ways to set specific measurable goals moving forward. And she's not going to believe labels and negative self-talk that might say, oh, I'm a failure, I couldn't do it, I'm never going to do it. And a lot of us have those old negative mindsets playing in our heads, and we haven't maybe learned from anything else that we've experienced in life so far how to rid ourselves of that, and how to start doing things like setting affirming goals and making statements as if it's already happened, and continuing past those little setbacks. So I hope that you'll do the things you said, like really envision what it's going to be like to reach that goal, and how you feel if you don't reach it. What's your why? Really connect with your why and make sure your goals are connected with your bigger why, so that you can't quit on them without really altering your future and who you want to be and what you want your life to be like. And I know that I believe in you, your upline, whoever your nearest mentor, enrollee, upline leader is. We believe in you and we want to partner with you. And maybe you don't have a life partner or significant other or spouse to do this with. Do this with a sideline or an upline or another friend. Get an accountability partner of some type. And that's really what we offer through mentoring our team members as leaders. We offer accountability. We offer help in setting goals. If you need help, if you're feeling a little lost or not exactly sure what reasonable goals are, we can help you evaluate the time you have to put into your business specifically, and what kind of action steps you need to make sure your goals are attainable and that you can do that. And we love to partner with you to do that. We love to figure out with you what your why is, help you set goals, and then keep you accountable with maybe a monthly call or a weekly email or whatever your mentor schedule allows. Find that out and figure out how to partner. And I've seen sidelines do this, people who aren't even on the same team but maybe met in an event and have a connection and forge a friendship and say, hey, let's keep each other accountable. We're approximately the same place in our business. We want to be about the same place next year this time. We met at this retreat or whatever. Let's stay in touch. Let's keep each other accountable. Let's, encourage each other and see how it's going. And really, number one thing I don't want you to do is confuse hope for goals. Dreams and goals are not the same thing. Tracey covered that beautifully, but, dreams and hopes are great things we need to have. We need to nurture that, but it's not the same as a goal. And we need to make sure that we are setting those goals intentionally, and that we are, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I lost my internet online, but I didn't know if you could still get me audio. I'm doing audio on the phone just in case that happens. So, but I just want to make sure that you do know the difference between a hope and a goal, and Tracey did cover that. But, these are goals that you're talking about through this entire training, setting goals, and it gives your hope structure. Dreams are kind of your fuel, but hope is hope is your fuel, but the goal is your map. It's that map that she talked about, so that you know where you're going on your trip and you have your stops planned and you have your, places, your destination mapped out. So make sure you're not confusing that. Well, I hope to be Diamond in 2016, but I'm just going to kind of maybe do a class when it's convenient and give out samples if somebody asks me for them. That's not going to align, and you need to make sure that you're not confusing hopes for goals, and do these things, do these steps. And I so look forward to celebrating success with all of you who do this. And I'm doing this for my own business, my own life. I love that Tracey covered so many different areas, not just our business. We do have a daily disciplines chart that you can use if you need some more structure for what a daily activity log would look like in your business. That is also in our Facebook files, and I hope that you'll check that out as well, especially if you don't have a system to follow. Edge Success is a great system that I love. There are other great systems out there that you can follow for staying on track with your business. And the last thing I wanted to add is with your physical goals, I hope that you will make sure to add things like taking your LLV and doing a 30-day cleanse and using your oils and nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself with your oils and the products that Tara offers, because you're going to be a walking billboard and testimony for the products if you're using them. And sometimes I talk to people who are so busy and trying to work full-time, raise children, maybe single moms even, and then trying to, start a business on the side. It's overwhelming. And so that's something I like to keep people accountable to. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Don't forget to take your LLV and to use your oils, and make sure you're taking good care of you, because you won't be able to take care of others if you're not taking good care of yourself. So all of these areas are so important and crucial to our lives. And I'm very grateful to you, Tracey, for covering them. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And I will look forward again to seeing where this takes you and celebrating success with you in the coming year and years ahead. Can you still hear me?